Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Hey friends.
Hello everybody.
Welcome to another Saturday edition of the BHPH
on
morning
YouTube
show.
only.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, we're only
Yes.
on YouTube today. So that's kind of a new track, new direction that we're going. And most importantly, we have Michelle back in studio today.
Yeah.
Some know that Michelle's been dealing with a bit of an illness. And so without going into much detail, I can just say that nothing that required hospitalization or anything like that, but she just, she has moments where she has an urgent need to be somewhere else.
Well, and I've felt like back to normal last week. So I told Jim, I said, if you want me on here, then just let me know before and I will be ready.
And no, it's not morning sickness. She's not pregnant. For those of you that are, who let your minds race.
I would be a very wealthy woman if that were the case.
You could get pregnant.
I mean, I remember my mom saying things like that.
Yeah.
She's like, that would be immaculate conception, and I could probably go after the people that made sure that
Wait a minute, don't say that.
Kids,
don't say that, because that means you've never had sex. So
no, I mean,
these Saturday shows are going to get a little more interesting. So we can move on to our subject. So today we're here to talk about aging inventory, and we're kind of framing a discussion that's going to kind of continue into our week ahead. And I think there's just a whole lot of interesting angles on this. This is something that, it may help for our listeners who are, not as familiar with our work, is that I was in the retail and sporting goods business before I ever got in the retail car business. I became a salesperson, a sales manager in the middle 90s, stepped into buy here, pay here management in the late 90s. But prior to that, I owned a retail and sporting goods business when I was in my 20s. And so there's some stories that I'm going to tell today as it relates to inventory, and specifically inventory turn, that are going to be relevant. I've got some questions teed up to kind of help us think about this whole subject of inventory. And, our title on some of this stuff was, when does inventory quit becoming an asset and start becoming a liability? And to our accountants out there, we know it doesn't actually change. It's still on the balance sheet. It's still listed as an asset.
But I mean, when you talk to dealers, they're like, look at all that cash on the lot. And it's like, that's money. That's
money tied up. And, and so I think, liability is just simply a way to think about, at what point is it costing us more than it's earning us, is maybe the simplest way to think about that. And obviously aged inventory that's not selling is just simply tied up cash. It's tied up cash.
And we're just like wrapping up tax refund season. And so usually dealers will have like a lot of inventory on their lot during, that period of time that they've been building up for months. I mean, I've talked to dealers, they start at November, and they're building up their inventory so that they can be ready for tax season. And so tax season is like kind of done. It's winding down. I don't know if it's completely done, but it's
there'll still be some refunds out there. But
well, because officially we're not supposed to. We don't have a due date until next week for taxes. But we know most of our customers are like right Johnny on the spot, because
most of our dealers' customers,
because that's an important influx of money for them for the year.
And
they're coming off of Christmas. They're coming off of a time that there's more going out than the rest of the year. So,
and I put out a poll in Facebook, and it kind of stirred up some dialogue, some conversation that kind of ties into what we're talking about here, because some of them started asking the question, well, there's a lot of variables. And I'm saying, what I'm really trying to drive down here to is, I've had dealers tell me over the years, our sales are low. Our sales are slow, but our inventory is low. So you can hear from that. What they're saying is, if they had more inventory, they should have more sales. So there's a point there. You have to figure out what would be an optimum inventory level. Okay. So you think about that in that context. Excuse me just a minute. So when you think about it in that context, it's like, at what point are we, do we have enough inventory?
Mhm.
So let me pause and tell a story about a dealer that I've worked with. I've told this story on our podcast in the past, but I think it's the best indicator of something that I want to form as sort of the basis for our
Mhm.
conversation throughout the week here, because it's an example of kind of the lens that I see inventory and these kind of assets
Mhm.
through. So there's a dealer that I used to work with that had a smallish inventory. I mean, let's define that. Like he had two sales locations,
Mhm.
had small inventory at each location. So when I say small, you're talking about they typically closed the month with units for sale on the ground somewhere between 10 units and 15 units per location.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about an inventory between two stores available for sale at 20, 25 units
A
total.
quick query. I mean, I
Huh?
don't know if this is relevant or not, but how many can they fit on their lot?
Hmm. My memory's twice that. I don't know if I ever
Okay.
saw the second
So about
location.
it, so it's not like it's a lot that can fit 100 cars and you're down to 15.
No.
It's where because I think I know who you're talking about, and
Yeah.
they would turn their inventory 2 or 3 times a month. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So certainly at a minimum, they were, well, I just remember their volume was very consistently 90 to 100 sales a month out of
Mhm.
those two small inventories so
Mhm.
combined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to frame it that way and think about, so that doesn't mean that the dealer didn't also own other
Mhm.
inventory in their pipeline. So you would also have to evaluate
Mhm.
those assets that are in the pipeline and dollars and capital tied up in the pipeline. But as far as the selling machine, the
Mhm.
sales team only has this small inventory to sell from.
Mhm.
The customers only have this much inventory to choose from, right?
Mhm.
And that's all that would probably be promoted online. But there's a whole lot to explain, a whole different
Okay.
subject in terms of how they succeeded at that. But I think if we just use that as a measuring stick. And then I've got another story about a guy who I met years ago. I don't think you've ever heard me tell this story, but back when I was in the retail business, before I was ever in the car business, I was introduced to a guy. One of my uncles introduced me to a gentleman who was very successful in the Southeast in furniture.
Mhm.
And he just wanted me to meet the guy. It's a business guy. I was a young business guy at that point. He thought the guy might serve as a good mentor for me.
Mhm.
And it turned out to be an embarrassing story for me because I was talking to him and he kind of asked me, said, how do you do with inventory turn? And I said, I think we're pretty good. We turn our inventory, about two and a half times a year. And
A
he
what?
two to two and a half
Oh,
times a
okay.
year on our
Okay.
retail business.
Uh-huh.
And he just kind of, you could tell he didn't want to offend me, but he said, I built my business turning inventory 12 times a year. And he was in the furniture business. So
Mhm.
so people understand the math there, what he's basically saying is if I have a 100 sofa inventory,
Mhm.
I'm selling about 1,200 sofas a year.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Mhm.
that means you just think about that, the
Mhm.
rate at which the inventory turns over, right?
Yeah.
That's the math that we're really talking about. And so I think that's the part that, and you can get tangled up in measuring this based on number of units
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
dollars. I think let's not get too bogged down in all that. What we're really trying to emphasize here and really question
Mhm.
is, where does it start to become a liability
Uh-huh.
as when it becomes a non-performing asset? So the other thing that I've heard over the years, Michelle, is that,
And ask for every I have heard that so many times. And
yeah,
ask for every seat.
you hear dealers say that.
Yeah.
So
And
let's break it
so
down.
it's like I've watched vehicles
Uh-huh.
on a lot that are like, that is a specialty vehicle, or it's eye candy, or it's whatever. And
And I don't, for
there's
me, if
yeah.
it sells and if I'm a buy
Yeah.
here, pay here, lease here, pay here dealer, whatever it is, if it's
Mhm.
an exotic car or a,
Mhm.
Ford Fusion, like it just, for me, it's a math question, a
Yeah.
sales volume, it's optimization of
Yeah.
inventory and assets question. And so when we say there's an ask for every seat, generally the context where I hear that
Uh-huh.
is dealers say, well, somebody will eventually come along and buy that. Okay. Is that the way
Eventually.
you interpret that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so that's, at least early on in my career when I was meeting
Yeah.
dealers, that was the way they used the phrase, was
Mhm.
that somebody will buy that car. I just
Mhm.
need to wait.
Mhm.
And so this is my premise, is really, yeah, there may be an ass for every seat, but some asses are more expensive than others. If you
Yeah.
wait on them, then that unit is sitting there tying up cash, tying up asphalt. And to me, that's the question, and the thing that we're trying to drill down to is, at what price do we wait for that? So I think this, starts to lead to questions about policy and disposing of aged inventory.
And
Obviously,
that was like, what is your definition of aged?
right.
I mean, because from what I understand, the day after you've bought the vehicle, it starts to age.
Yeah.
And so, just based on your experience, what is, I don't know if I'm totally taking you off track, but like, what is a good age that it's like, if your inventory is all under X, that's a good,
That's a big
solid,
question. I'll start you with an answer. Like, I don't want to. So if I'm working with a dealer, often my when I'm easing them into this adjustment, because we work with dealers sometimes that have inventory with hundreds of days in inventory, sometimes full year, whatever. And so when I'm starting with that, I'll typically ease them into a policy that says, can we make a policy to liquidate inventory that is over 90 days? For me, I would target something shorter than that. In my own experience as a dealer, we definitely turned our inventory much faster than that. But when you're starting dealers with this sort of approach, you have to kind of get them comfortable with the process of what it's going to look like to turn loose of inventory that's aging. So let's stop and break that down a little bit. Like, if a car has aged, let's say that let's just pick 90 days for a policy. That I'm gonna decide that 90 days is going to become my policy, and I'm going to start moving cars out at 90 days. And we might look at a car that is clean, it drives perfectly, it's summertime and the air is cold, like and you know how hard that inventory is to come by, and you do not really want to turn loose of that.
Okay.
And I get it. But we have to ask ourselves as dealers, how much of our decision to hang on to that unit is driven by emotion and not good financial sense?
Okay.
Because in my belief, and this is a hard thing for a lot of dealers, and even before I was a dealer in the retail side, it's a hard thing sometimes to let go of, because we get, in our own mind, we get sort of married to, if you will, this idea that this car is nice, it's going to sell, and we may be a little proud of it. Right?
There is frequently a lot of emotion tied up with your inventory. It's like, I won't put that, or I'll only do this, or look at that beauty, or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of emotion.
But here's my point. And another way to say this, maybe so I don't forget to share this, is I've jokingly told dealers in the past is, on my own practice and my what I suggest to dealers is we don't buy cars to hold down the asphalt. They're there to sell. They're there to be sold. That is the business that we're in, is moving inventory and keeping it through. And so we basically need to be prepared to let it go. So back to this example of if a car hits 91 days, it shouldn't matter if it's clean. It doesn't matter if the color is wrong or right. It doesn't matter if it drives well. It doesn't matter. The point is, if you look at your inventory and the amount of cars that have turned in the last 90 days, that says that car that reached 91 days was passed over quite a bit in the last 90 days. That's the part we have to get comfortable with, is that car really should just go away. And that's hard for dealers to adjust to a lot of times. But it's like, when we can develop the practice of letting that car move on through. And so we haven't mentioned yet that, we're doing a workshop where we will dive into the math.
Pulled this up.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I think I've got the link here where I can share it, so folks can get in there and get registered for this thing. We've got a workshop on Thursday afternoon that will dive into all this, and we've got a tool that's being created for that purpose, so that we can analyze these things and give you good math on what is the benefit to me if I would decide to liquidate some of this inventory, for example, and put it back into fresh units. What could that mean to me in terms of the math? And so,
and there's a tool involved too, so that you can run your specific
And we'll be able to share that tool with
pieces in
dealers.
that, yeah.
You know, the attendees will get the access to the
Mhm.
tool and they can run their own math. But we're going to walk them through kind of how that calculation can work and what the benefit can be from them for making a decision to start to let go of some of that aged stuff, because they'll see the math that says it's starting to cost us money. And I
Yeah.
think there are some soft costs about this. So this is where I would say the soft costs are real costs, folks. We don't measure them. We don't have it on our DMS in terms of the cost of the unit, but it's a very real cost to us. Our CPAs out there know this. Like, we have a very soft cost associated with that car sitting there, but it's real to us. And
Yeah.
opportunity cost is real to us. The opportunity that we're missing by not having a fresh unit that would sell, because we've got an aged unit that's getting passed over, and we can get real bogged down in the analysis of why this car sold and this one didn't. But we certainly need to be mindful of what is selling. We need to go back and look. But if we look at the cars that turned over in 30 days, pick 30 days. A lot of the stuff will turn from the time that it hits the lot in 30 days. So we look at that and figure out what is that makeup, what is the composition or the kind of the profile of the car that is selling. And then there's the other soft cost that I just want to make sure we talk about is just team morale. Like when you think about the sales team showing up every day and having an aged inventory, that's gonna hit their psyche, and whereas having fresh inventory hit the lot is going to give them a little bit of
But I've
boost.
also heard dealers, it's like they're just whiny.
Yeah.
And they're just being, well, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And so you can have the attitude of buck up.
Yeah.
Or you can make it exciting for them too.
Yeah.
Because they just, they're like, I've been showing that car and brr, 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 brr. You've heard it. And where the cars got dust, we've seen cars with weeds growing up around the tires because they aren't even moving. But it is a morale thing.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
So another story kind of helped tie this together is I remember a dealer in Texas. We won't say who it is, but I remember a dealer in Texas who shared that they had a bell in the showroom area, front door of their dealership. And it's like I don't know if it's Long John Silver's or somebody used to use a bell that ring the bell for good service on the way out the door.
Okay.
Well, what they did was create a bell that when the lot porter put a newly priced and scrubbed car on the lot for sale, they would come in and ring the bell like there's new inventory on the lot.
Oh, that's really a great, fun,
super
excitement.
Fun. But why? What happens? What's the psyche? Who does it affect?
It affects two
at least
people, at least. The salesperson and the customer that's in. It's
Right.
like, oh, can I see that car? What do you?
So the question came up when they were describing this. The question came up about, don't you have customers who are in the middle of contracting on a car want to stop and go look at the other one that's coming in? Maybe, but I would take that problem over the other problems every day, because I think what you're doing is you're emphasizing to your team the freshness aspect, and the team see it, the management team, a lot of people
the customer's going to know it. And so even, we talk about a customer's experience is broadcasted to all of their friends and family.
Yeah.
And so this level of excitement in a showroom, you might have collectors over here or whatever, and have, 5 to 10 people, but it's not going to work as much if there's just a salesperson and then the porter drops off a car and rings the thing. So it's just the salesperson. But if you've got a few people, that does create a level of excitement for a customer. And it's just kind of like, it was fun and a good energy. And it was,
energy is important. Like that's another intangible thing that is
Absolutely.
hard to identify. But I'm going to put a banner in here to alert people, and I'll share it now, that I would urge people to go search, because it's kind of a related story here. It's from years ago. This was early on in our podcasting days with the morning show. We did a podcast on the Lynn Hickey Dodge
Oh,
story in
yeah,
Oklahoma
yeah,
City.
yeah. Yeah,
And
it's funny because when we did that, we had people from that family that,
yeah,
watched or commented or whatever. Yeah.
they reached out and
Mhm.
kind of messaged us on YouTube or whatever. But yeah, so I would urge people, and I'll put it in the comments
Mhm.
so you can find it, and go look up that. You can go to our playlist or go to our
Mhm.
YouTube channel. If you don't
Lynn
mind,
Hickey.
Michelle, if you'll put
Yeah.
up our YouTube channel, I think
Okay.
we've got that link there.
Mhm.
But make sure people know how to, especially because we're going to be doing a lot more of our,
Well, we're on YouTube, so
yeah,
you're watching that right now
yeah.
from
And so be
YouTube.
sure and just subscribe. Michelle's going to
Mhm.
put up our YouTube channel. Be sure and subscribe while you're here. And then when you're in there, you can search our playlist. We got the whole morning
Mhm.
show playlist in there. And you can find one called Lynn Hickey Dodge, which really talks about how that dealership functioned and
Mhm.
how they managed to sell 2,200 cars in a single month
Mhm.
just back in the 90s. But the
Mhm.
point is still that it's just as relevant today. The story about what that was in terms of a circus atmosphere was just the same. So I think there's a lot of different angles here that you
Mhm.
can take, but I think if we just keep it strictly to the inventory on the ground, and if we just developed a policy that allowed us to, we might suffer a little wholesale loss on the stuff that is going away. On the positive side, that car is going to be in good shape. It's coming right off the lot. It's going to be in good running condition. It should do better on the wholesale market, but we
Mhm.
still may suffer some wholesale hits.
Mhm.
But what we'll be able to show on Thursday is how quickly you recover that wholesale hit
Uh-huh.
by putting fresh inventory back into the system
Mhm.
and making fresh inventory available for the benefit of
Yeah.
your sales team and your customers. You're going to see that the recovery on that wholesale loss just by creating a disciplined policy.
Mhm.
Discipline is the key word there. Just got to be willing to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Got to be.
And, I would really encourage dealers to, to a lot of dealers have floor plans and things like that, that don't dig yourself so far in
Mhm.
on your cost that you feel like you have to sell it.
Right.
Because, every day that it sits there aging, that car is costing you more and more. And so
Sure.
it is better for a lot of reasons to just keep it fresh, keep
Right.
it fresh, keep it fresh. And you might take a little bit of a hit at the auction, but
Mhm.
it resets your floor plan. You pay that off, and then you have the excitement, and there's a lot of cascading effects from doing that.
Sure.
And there are a lot of compounding effects from not.
Right.
And that's some of the stuff we'll be talking about,
Yeah.
or you'll be talking about on Thursday. I'll be behind the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. But I think, this is part of what I wanted to have a chance to really talk through today was this idea of, as we kind of move into our April meetings with our V8 members, we're recording this live on the 11th of April of 26. And so as we move into our April meetings and we're wrapping up Q1 where we get to kind of analyze sales from the first quarter, and we'll look at that. We track a very simple inventory turn number in our V8 summary report. We don't talk about it a lot, but I will be breaking that down as we move into these April meetings. But
so I put the title up again. This event is happening next Thursday, this coming Thursday, and the tickets are being sold on Eventbrite.
I just put the actual link to the Eventbrite thing in the thread that should be in the YouTube comments.
Yeah.
So make sure you find those. In the past, we've had a little bit of an issue from our streaming platform getting those comments to land on the platforms, but hopefully you can find that there.
Yeah.
And but you can always just reach out to us or message me, Jim at White Hat Way.
And just a reminder that this event and all of our dealer workshop series, if you're a member of V8 Plus, that's part of your membership.
Right.
So
they received an email already today.
About it to, put it on your calendar. And then with that as well is that you get the recording. If you aren't able to make it, that you will have the recording sent to you.
Right.
So
sure.
Yeah.
So, I think we covered the parts that I would want to cover. Again, I would just invite people to join us on Thursday for that session. We're going to really dig in deep on some of that and break down some of this math and hopefully be able to illustrate better for dealers why this idea of drafting a policy, sticking to it, turning that inventory through, it's going to translate into more sales, more profit per unit, and so that results in more gross profit.
if you need any help with anything, don't hesitate to call or text 903-816-0216. That's Jim's direct line. So
Call me, text me.
Yeah, call and text. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you all on Thursday at our event that we have the link posted as well. Thanks so much for joining. We appreciate
Happy to have you here on this
Saturday.
Yep.
And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And I need to actually pull up a slide really quick. I think I'll just do this one right here, and we'll end up with that.
Works. All right.
All right, everybody. Have a
great
great
weekend.
day.
See ya.